Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Pros podcast by Investor Fuel. I'm your host, Dylan Silver, and today we have Ashley Coates. Am I saying your name right? Ashley Coates on the podcast. Ashley is a second-generation real estate entrepreneur, been a broker since 2006, former financial advisor, restaurant owner, and has owned some laundromats. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I think the first question people are going to ask is, you've been a broker since 2006, second generation. So how did you get into the business?
Well, it wasn't not really a choice. My mom was a serial real estate entrepreneur. It's what she did. She owned a brokerage, small little town. I was very different as a child. I always wanted to work. I didn't want to go to school, that kind of thing. So I homeschooled at an early age, got really involved in her business, was property managing at 14, and she would do new builds for some of the developers around, and I would get to be the person that helped the clients pick out all of their finishes, essentially. So I would be in charge of doing all the finish work and stuff. So that's kind of where it started. Then my mom got sick at 16, or when I was 16, and she passed away. So I took over the business. It was all I knew and what I had to do. So I kind of kept it going, did a rent-a-broker type thing, had someone that was willing, luckily a friend, willing to broker me so I could keep the business going, and I did that up until 2006.
So you're in Northern California, and I know you mentioned the name of the town before we started. What was the town where you were at?
Red Bluff.
Repliff. Okay, so you're 14 years old and getting involved in the business. Did you have siblings, and was this just you were passionate about it? You were curious what your mom was doing? How did you get in at 14? I think a lot of people are happy that they can get in at, 40 or later. They're just trying to find their way in, and you had the good fortune to get in at 14. How did you get in at 14?
It was my mom. She just kind of pulled me in. It was a job. She paid me $600 a month, which was great.
You're the richest person alive. In your head, you're like, I'm wealthy.
Absolutely. $600 a month, and I had to just manage the entire rental portfolio, which I wasn't. I mean, I was doing a lot of the contracts and stuff like that. I wasn't the one signing with them because you can't. But I would write them up, have them ready for her. She'd have to go get them signed. I'd be entering in rents and depositing rents and sending out, taking maintenance tickets, sending those people out to get the maintenance done. All the dirty work that she didn't want to do, basically, is what I had to do. And,
So did she have this was her own personal portfolio of rental properties, or was this someone else's?
She was a property manager.
Okay. And you were her assistant.
Yeah, exactly.
This is phenomenal. I hope I have the good fortune to have children who are that involved. And I think a lot of people, we have our Investor Fuel Mastermind group, and the average avatar of the person in the group is someone who's doing 50 plus deals But people talk about, how do I get my kids into the business? And you could have a 17-year-old who wants nothing to do with it. And it seems like you were the opposite. Maybe to some degree you didn't have another option because you had a parent pass away at a young age. But when you first got in, it was out of your mom saying, "Hey, here's this opportunity," and you ran with it.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
I was excited. I always wanted to be older than I was. I always wanted to grow up so fast. And she didn't discourage that in any way. She didn't try to just, nope, you kid, be a kid. She just let it be. And she told that, took me to everything. So I was just really interested getting to go, like I said, the developer and going to the new builds. It's always been like my one goal. I want to do a development at some point because I got to watch that from such a young age. And I just thought it was so neat.
Yeah.
The subdivision plans and dealing with the building department. And she would take me everywhere she went. So when I started doing it, it wasn't hard or weird. I knew where to go to the building department. I knew the questions to ask. And so it just kind of felt okay to me.
For folks listening, I think a lot of us are thinking it wasn't weird to you, but to be 16 years old and get handed a brokerage is probably overwhelming. To be 30 years old and get handed a brokerage when you haven't run a brokerage could be overwhelming. So how did that happen? Of course, it was under some difficult circumstances, but how did that happen? And then how did you learn?
We had a year to plan from her diagnosis to the day she passed. So as soon as she was diagnosed, she started making steps. She recruited a broker that would be willing to, in the event, maintain the brokerage. And she talked to all the agents to make sure that they'd be willing to stay on, talked to the developers that we were working with on the subdivisions and made sure that they would be willing to stay on, as long as things were set up correctly. And she started, what else did she do? She just kind of paved the way basically to where I homeschooled, I graduated right after I turned 16, December. So a month after I turned 16, I graduated. So I was full time at this point. She didn't pass away for another 4 months after I graduated.
Did you have your real estate license at that point?
You can't till you're 18.
Okay.
So I had already taken the test because you could take the test. I had passed the test, but they wouldn't give you the license till you turned 18. So I went 2 years without even a license, operating basically with this broker that worked hand in hand with me. Everything I did, he just looked it over and made sure it was good and signed off on it. Today's world, probably not legal, but
this was before 2006. So this was before there were rules.
Exactly. Yeah. We were also doing loans back then, because that was before all of that happened. So we were a broker as well. So,
you get a house,
Yeah, exactly. So she just kind of made sure that we were set up. I made sure I positioned myself to be ready. I moved out, so I was ready to live on my own. And we just it was, what else do? You're dealt with the cards you're dealt with.
And did you have siblings? Were you an only child? What was the rest of the dynamic like?
I do have siblings. They're much older, and they're like split family. They were not my mom's. I'm my mom's only child.
I just know that a lot of people already are super impressed. I am, because I haven't spoken with a single real estate investor entrepreneur who got started even at 18, let alone 14. So a lot of people are probably listening thinking, I wish I had the good fortune to start then. But from there, you go and you become a real estate broker. That takes some years. So I imagine from 18 till 22 is when you became a broker? 22. And at that point in time, you mentioned before the show started that you did become a financial advisor. Did that happen like almost immediately at that point in time, or were you a broker for some years before you went ahead to that financial advising?
Oddly enough, I'd actually sold the brokerage by the time I got my broker's license. It was just something I always knew I was going to do. I was never not going to do it.
Hmm.
Uh, I had already sold the brokerage, and I had went into mortgage brokering instead, or mortgage, basically selling mortgage. I started working for a bank.
Yeah.
Uh, Financial crisis hit, and the mortgage banking business kind of collapsed, as we all know now. So that was
Tough time to be a mortgage brain. Tough time.
it was fun though, honestly. Like it was fun. We were literally at a convention on like the day, and
Really?
we were there and training and all this stuff. And then the owner came out and was like, "So, actually, we just went bankrupt." You guys
You're kidding.
Yeah, we're in Arizona at the time, Phoenix, Arizona. I was 20 years old. It was crazy, but fun. And so I left there, and I had a friend who owned a friend's parent who owned a dealership in town, and he approached me and he's like, "Hey, heard what happened? I've got a financial what do they call the finance people at the car lot?" He's
Yeah.
like, "I got
F and
finance."
I.
He's like, "You want it?" And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know anything about cars, but sure. I'm not doing anything right now."
What make dealer was this?
It was a Ford dealership.
Ford dealership in Northern California. I sold cars for the better part of 5 years before I got into real estate.
Okay.
And all of the if there's car guys and gals listening, they're all jealous because they're like, she goes from being a broker to then immediately F and I. That's how do I make that jump? I know there's a lot of people. I just got off the phone with a good friend of mine in San Antonio this morning who this gentleman has been working for years and never got that spot in F&I. So there was a little bit of divine intervention for you there. But how did that end up going?
All of who you know.
Yeah,
For sure. It was fun. I didn't last long there though. 6 months. I didn't like it. That was not my cup of tea.
a lot of hours. That's what I remember distinctly.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
It was a lot of hours, and I got to believe what I'm selling, and I didn't. So that was
Yeah.
where I couldn't get in, and they're just like they tried everything. I'm like, "Sorry guys, like this isn't for me."
For me, it was the surveys. This was before they really did the surveys, but what ended up happening during COVID is they made these surveys for the commissions for the car salespeople. And it wasn't the car itself that made money. It was that made the salespeople money. It was how well you did on like a 40 question survey. And so I was like, man, this is really hard. You would think that just selling the car would be good enough and having, that relationship. But now it's like, did the managers treat you well? Was the dealership clean? And you're like, dang, I can't control all this. So that was my experience. But after you went through F&I at the Ford store, what was the next step for you?
I applied for Edward Jones and got hired on. I had to take my Series 7, Series 66. I knew absolutely nothing about stocks, bonds, or finance, anything like that. 401ks, that was not something my mom, she didn't do it. We didn't talk about it. I knew nothing, which I think is what allured me to it. I heard Edward Jones had really good sales training, so that was a big bonus for me. I wanted to get some better sales training, and then I wanted to learn about that side of the world anyway. So it was more of an education, I think, journey. And at this point, see, Edward Jones. When I started at Edward Jones, my second daughter was like 2 months old at the time. So
What was your prospecting technique of choice, your preferred method at Edward Jones? I know my buddy who's my mentor. He said I learned all the salesmanship that I know from AT&T. He was a manager at AT&T and from Edward Jones. That's where I learned all my hustle from. So what was some of the training that they put you through, or what
so
was the techniques?
yeah, Edward Jones is like door knocking. That is their thing. They are all about door knocking, and I like anyone else, I hated it.
Very tough.
But it's really effective. And I think the big takeaway is it's just a numbers game. It really is. The more people you call, the more doors you knock on, the more people you talk to. It's just a numbers game. You just got to ask enough times and be told no enough times before someone finally says yes. And so that was kind of the takeaway there. It's still
I
probably my least favorite thing to do. I don't actually enjoy sales, oddly enough.
The door knocking is so hard. I've tried. I think you have to have a really warm personality, super warm. You've got to think on your feet. You can't
Yeah.
be even a little bit afraid because that'll
It
come across.
It was so shocking though, how many people would open their door, and you got to think I'm 20 at this point, open their door, let me in, and open up their life of everything. Here's my 401k statement. Here's my IRA statement. Here's this, here's that. What do you, and I'm just in my mind going, what, you don't know me. Why are you telling me this? I know I asked, but say no.
Yeah, please. You know what I mean?
I don't
That's
wonder what they're training today and if it's changed, because I feel like today it's different. I mean, people are so much more skeptical of scams and
yeah.
strangers and all the things. I can't imagine they're still
Back in
promoting.
that time, did they have the no solicit signs?
Mm-hmm.
They still had those. They're
Mm-hmm.
everywhere in Texas, like everywhere, because we have the solar, we have pest control, all types of door knocking. And
Yeah.
so uh I remember when I was trying to be a door-to-door salesperson, I it was just so I was like, I'm not cut out for this. You have to have a super thick skin.
Yeah.
Which leads me to a question. I've seen this, and some people say, well, it's just tough. That's how it is. But some realtors, I get a laugh out of this. I'm going to be a realtor here soon. I'm sitting for my exam on the 31st.
Congrats.
Um, and thank you. And I've seen in groups, realtors will say, "This was my territory. However, new agent came in and is knocking all my doors. How dare they?" And I'm thinking like, you're getting out hustled, sir. Like this person
Yeah.
is coming in and knocking your doors.
Yeah. Do better.
Do better. Do better. So after Edward Jones, what happened next in the journey?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
So during my stint at Edward Jones, I married, and his family came from residential care. They did small group residential care facilities for adults with disabilities, and I knew nothing about that. And while I was still working there, he approached me and said, "Hey, well, actually, it was a broker locally who called us and brought it to us, and he said, there's a lady not too far from you that's selling her two facilities. Thought you guys might be interested." And so I dove into it just looking at it as a business. I underwrote it, looked at it like a business. I had just checked the numbers, and I'm like, it looks great on paper. And I'm like, but I don't know anything about this business. So you tell me what you think. And he's like, I can't run anymore. You would have to, leave Edward Jones and do this and learn it. And so that was when the decision was made. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we bought those two facilities. I spent the next year to just really learning the business and understanding the dynamics of it, and basically decided at that point to convert all of my rental portfolio into residential care because their need was so high. There were so many individuals that needed placement. There wasn't placement for them, and so I'm like, we've got these houses that are making normal rent. I'm barely cash flowing on them. Like, let's just get these licensed and convert them. And he had never opened one from the ground up, but I'm like, I got this. It's fine. So that's what we did.
Are those all staffed? We were talking about this beforehand. For people who are not familiar with what those facilities are, tell us a little bit about that, and then how did you staff those?
So they are staff operated. They're residential care facilities. We have two that are 6 bed. Well, I have two that are 6 bed now. And then The rest are 4-bed, which is what the industry is going to now, is 4-bed facilities. So they're just a basic residential home. And for us, we do adults with disabilities 18 to 59. I have a couple that are actually RCFEs now, but they're still for adults with disabilities, just the aging population. And they are fully staffed. At this point, I have a director of operations who runs all, I have 5 total under me. She runs all 5. Under her, there are administrators that run each facility. And then we have staffing that actually do like the direct care.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
about 3 hours at this point on those businesses.
so this is now after Edward Jones, but this is before COVID, right?
Oh yeah.
This is before COVID, and you still have these facilities. So
I think 2010 is
okay,
when I bought the 2 in Las Molinas. And then I want to say it was probably 2011, 2012 when I converted the portfolio of rentals into residential care. And then during COVID, we divorced and split our portfolio. He took his 2, I took my 2, and then of the 2 we converted, we each took 1 essentially. So we left with 3.
so you still have 3 or 1?
I have 5.
5. The
Yeah.
reason why I ask is the biggest regret of all the real estate investors who I talk with, the single biggest regret is I sold my rentals, or I sold my flips, or I sold whatever it was that they had. And had I known, I would have kept at least 1. And
Yeah.
so for folks listening, it can seem enticing even now to generate some quick cash flow, but if you can afford to, hold on to it. And is that your experience too?
I hold anything I can. If it can, my philosophy is if it can cash flow or close to cash flow, I'm even willing to lose a little bit, but I'm in a position to do so, to maintain and hold it, especially in today's environment. I feel like, which we're doing more flipping than I've ever done. So don't get me wrong, we're flipping at this point because it's really hard to hold real estate. Like everyone knows that. So, but if I can take a little loss for a little while, I'm betting on appreciation, and I'm betting on rates coming down eventually. I don't think it's happening anytime soon, but I think as a whole, eventually, if say it cash flows at 6% and I'm paying 7% right now, I'm probably still going to hold that because I know eventually I should be able to get there, and then appreciation too. So,
I'd like to talk a little bit. You mentioned before we hopped on here, laundromats. Laundromats. I'd like to talk a little bit about these laundromats. So Ashley you were the sole owner of the laundromats in a town, and so all the laundromats were yours. If you were going to a laundromat in, what was the town?
Red Bluff.
That town.
Yeah.
During COVID, right?
No. Let's see. Laundromats I bought in 2016. I want to say, I think 2016.
2016 until
I sold them in, oh no, it was way before 2016. No, I sold them in 2018. So
okay,
before then.
sometime before then, you were going to Ashley's laundromats, but
2012, I think. Yeah.
Nowadays, I was just mentioning this to you before I hopped on. Like, people are aware; they're so aware. Hey, laundromats are great. It's like the media and social media. They're like great, but you had the insight to get into that probably before it was popularized. Where did you see that as being an opportunity, and also how did that go for you owning laundromats?
It was great. So actually, this was one of my mom's things. She had bought one of them, and prior to for my dad, basically, because she wanted him to have a solid income as well. And so she had bought one. Well, then after she passed, and a little while later, another one came for sale, and I ended up buying my dad's and that one. And then he just ran them. He didn't want to own them, but he was okay with just running the day-to-day, dealing with the maintenance and stuff like that. So it was just cash flow, and it just made sense. If you can pay all the debt to service it and pay someone to run them and you're still making money, like, why not buy that?
And it was your dad who was running it, right? So as far as your other than, managing it from afar, it wasn't too intensive on your end because you didn't have to be there.
No, I just did the books.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of people's concern. It's even one of my concerns. I've asked people, is it possible to do this remotely? And by this, I mean be active as a real estate investor remotely. And the answer that I continually get is if you have the right systems and processes in place and trust someone on the ground that you can do it. Otherwise, it's going to be hard in my case, to move to Santo Domingo if I don't have that in place. You're probably going to have to be there. And it sounds like that's your experience as well.
Yeah, it comes with risks. I mean, I think today, it is one of those things I look back and man, I wish I wouldn't have sold those. Like, I really probably do wish I wouldn't have sold those. But when my dad passed and I didn't have anyone, and I just at the time was so focused on my other portions of my career, I didn't want to dive into figuring out how to systematize it and how to replace him. So it was just made sense to sell him at that point for me.
Yeah. When these
But
things happen, it's like, what do you
I
do?
would have never sold. I would have put the systems in place and hired the person.
Yeah.
And it's totally possible now.
I think also hiring good people is hard too. There's more systems in place now, and there was
Yeah.
some then, but you know, it is hard. It is hard. It's like you've got to find, if you're doing, we get a lot of people with Airbnbs. You got to find consistent people who are there day in and day out to clean it to the same standard. Otherwise, you're going to get, dinged on Airbnb. And with a laundromat, it's got reviews just the same way. It's just a little different. You'll get Google reviews, so on and so forth. And so, having those people is critical.
And on top of that, someone might get clothes stuck in the dryer at 2 a.m. and who's going to do that? So
Yes.
there are, it's not probably as glamorous as it seems with all the social media, but if you have the right people, it can be done.
Speaking of glamorous, there's a little glamour in this, I think, is maybe a lot of glamour, is owning a restaurant. I'm jealous. I'm a foodie. All I need to do is open up TikTok and look at the vibe. I don't even need to look at the food. I need to look at the vibe and say, wow, that looks like a really great, Mexican sushi place. Let me go there. So how did you become a restaurant owner? Tell us how that happened.
I'm constantly browsing businesses for sale, and there was one that came up multiple times, and the numbers just looked good. And so finally, I reached out to the broker and I'm like, can you send me the packet on this? I'm just curious, which I didn't think I'd ever want to own a restaurant. But when I did the numbers and it was semi-absentee owner, it made sense. It seemed like a great business. It's been around since 1968. So it's not new. It's like in a neighboring town about 30 minutes from here. And it's kind of like a local favorite. It's
Mm.
a glamorous restaurant. It is a order at the counter, kind of, quick service type thing. Super cheap. I think we've been cheap eats for the last 20 years or maybe longer. I don't know.
And so
So
how much, I think for me and for people listening, it seems like a lot of effort owning a restaurant, even if you're detached on some level, like you bought in, right? But
mhm.
is it? I mean, I can't imagine a restaurant being not a lot of effort.
I think it could be. I'm lucky. It was a great business and I hired the right person. He's phenomenal. I hired him as a kind of a transition coordinator. He was going to transition the restaurant from the previous owners to me, and management was already in place. He's kind of just morphed into becoming the general manager or director of operations there, whatever you want to call it. And he's phenomenal. So I spend an hour a month. I attend a meeting. He gives me the breakdown of here's how it went this month, here's how it was last month. I get the snapshots of all the finances. Here's our problems. If he needs something from me, he'll message me and say, I've got a problem and I want to go over the solutions with you, see what you think. And that's it. So no, it is my least headache business, honestly, at this point. And I don't think
Wow.
so I don't want
Wow. This is awesome.
because I don't think that's normal.
I think when this comes out, there'll be a lot of people who have questions. How do I buy a restaurant? How did you find the GM? How did you know that it wasn't going to be a headache? Like when you doing a fix and flip, you take down the wall and you see there's all this stuff behind the wall that needs to get remediated. Restaurants can be like that. And so you had
Yeah.
almost the exact opposite experience.
Yeah, the general managers were already in place. So more than anything, his focus has been like, we need to systematize the business because the general managers may or may not be there forever, obviously. So they won't be. So it's just been documenting processes and getting it to where we just talk about like, let's just get it franchisable. I don't think we're going to
Mm.
franchise, but if we were, let's get it there to where this is how you do it. And
What
then
kind of food is it?
it's Mexican food.
Mexican food. Okay, there's a huge debate in Texas. This is an aside. There's a huge debate in Texas. Si la gente de California tiene el mejor comida mexicano o la gente de aquí? Do the Californians have better Mexican food or do the Texans? And I'm in Texas, so this may be sacrilege. This may be sacrilege, but I feel like the Californian food is just a little bit less heavy, so you can eat a little bit more of it, whereas the Texas food could put you potentially in a food coma.
So I'm pretty sure we are Texas style Mexican.
Okay.
We joke that we're like the American Mexican, like it's not really Mexican.
Okay,
But
okay.
that's the way it was founded. We changed nothing because everybody loves the place. So we changed absolutely nothing. And it is not, you don't get cojito on your tacos. We don't even carry cilantro. That kind of Mexican. So
Well, if you franchise it, maybe there's Texans listening to this who are saying, "Okay, it's Texan Mexican food. Let's get one of these over here. How do I get in
actually
touch with?"
have what's called a Tex-Mex taco.
There you go. There you go. So right now, you've got the restaurant, you've got the residential care facilities.
Mhm.
Anything else that you have going on?
Flips. We buy and
Flips.
sell a lot of homes. Currently, we've got 3 projects in San Antonio, oddly enough, going on, and then we
Oh yeah.
have 3 or 4 here in Northern California as well.
Okay, so I just moved up to Denton, which is considered the greater Dallas DFW
Okay.
area. And I was in San Antonio for 5 years. And how did you land on San Antonio of all places? Being in California, how did you pick San Antonio?
Um, I just did a lot of market research and I kind of honed in on San Antonio. I liked it. I didn't feel like it had seen the huge capital appreciation of some of the other Texas markets that have already exploded. It seemed like its rent to price ratio was pretty good in the hopes that I could hold some of them, although taxes are crazy in Texas. But yeah, I'm not really sure exactly why I ended up there. There was a few in the running and it's just kind of where I settled. It was there in Tulsa initially, and the plan is I would like to have teams all over the US and be able to flip in multiple areas. That's the goal. The goal was one new market a quarter. My husband's pulling me back a little. So
The
just
flipping is hard now. My mentor here in Denton was saying, it's tougher to flip now. It's tougher to flip. You go from doing 7 flips at once. You're shaking your head. You're saying we're still flipping. We're full speed ahead.
well, we've actually changed to flipping because I feel like at this point, I mean, it's definitely easier to flip than it is to buy and hold or burr or anything like that right now. Um, margins are definitely tighter and you got to be really good at your numbers and
Yeah.
you have to have a great rehab team and, you got to plan for longer hold times. But if you're planning for all of that and you're running your numbers correctly, I think that it's still a great business.
How
And
did you choose flipping versus new builds?
Um, just because it's the only thing I've really done. Because like I
Okay.
said, I bought a few here locally and then kind of flipped them and converted them into residential care after my divorce to rebuild my portfolio. That's kind of what I did. And so I just really enjoyed the process of redesigning an entire house and, just making it what I wanted. It was a lot of fun. I really liked it. And so that's really why I would love to do a new build. It's one of the goals this year. I want to do one new build.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating because I get these perspectives, and up to this point, a lot of the people who I've been speaking who are doing flips in Texas have been telling me, and I haven't done one, but they've been telling me it's just harder. It's harder to do flips now, and it's like if you can uh, have a flip and a new build, and they're both going to be maybe difficult to sell. Um, you might as well do the new build, but
I've heard a lot too.
to your credit, I said this before getting on the call. I think San Antonio is ripe for someone to come in and just put a bunch of money into San Antonio, because I moved up from San Antonio to the DFW area because I felt like there wasn't enough investors. There wasn't enough going on. And in DFW, I feel like there's a ton, but it's not as easy to find a good deal for an investor in my mind, because there's so much more competition. Whereas in San Antonio, you have, I would say, a better market for investors. And I think you were able to figure that out from California. So kudos on that.
Ability there is, I think, the biggest drive for me.
Yeah.
I like that. I want to be able to flip and sell like to the average American family. You know, if I can shoot for ARVs between 250 or even 200 to, 350, 400 max, I love that.
Yeah.
A lot of people that can afford that.
It's not the same in California. I think
No, it's not.
it's not the same in California. Well, we're coming up on time here. Ashley, how can people get a hold of you?
Instagram, Small Town Investors, my husband and I, and Facebook, Mike and Ashley Coates.
Terrific. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Real Estate Pros podcast. Until next time, see you later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.